KBC Channel 1. We kick off from the county of Uasin Gishu. President William Ruto has called on the Kenya Defence Forces to work closely with the Ministry of Environment in realizing the 15 billion tree plantation exercise in the next 10 years. Speaking during the Kenya Defence Forces Recruits Pass Out parade in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, the head of state said the exercise is paramount in curbing the adverse effects of climate change currently witnessed in the country.
We have climate change that is ravaging our country. We came straight from a drought situation a year ago, straight into a flood situation recently. Climate change is the biggest threat to our development and to our prosperity. And as a response, we decided that we are going to plant 15 billion trees across Kenya. I want to commend all Kenyans. Last Friday was an exercise in patriotism that I saw across the country with all Kenyans from all walks of life, young and old, participating in tree planting. I want to ask the KDF to lead the way, to provide the mechanism, and to work with the Ministry of Environment so that they can be the lead champions in the exercise of planting the 15 billion trees in the next 10 years. I celebrate the KDF for their iconic peacekeeping role, which complements our nation's well-established credentials in our region and enhances our capacity to face an ever-increasing, delicate, complex, and challenging regional and global diplomatic and security environment. Whether in peace support missions abroad or national development projects at home, your actions reflect competence and efficiency worthy of our trust and the esteem in which our nation is held on the global stage.
The State Department of Social Protection and Senior Citizens Affairs, through the Child Welfare Society of Kenya, Tuesday provided emergency assistance to flood victims in Nairobi's South B subdivision. Labour Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore, who led the emergency response intervention exercise at the Railway Training Institute, said her ministry will continue to provide the required support to the vulnerable, mainly the elderly, children and persons with disabilities.
700 households and over 1,000 children from Mukuru, Hazina and Lanmawe informal settlements benefited from food and other essential supplies, which include clothing, bedding and household items. The emergency response intervention exercise at the Railway Training Institute was led by Labour Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore, Social Protection Principal Secretary Joseph Motari and Child Welfare CEO Irene Mureithi. CS Bore said her ministry is committed to support the vulnerable and those affected by floods.
Tunapeana 2,000 kwa wale wazee, wale wasiojiweza na wale watoto ambao wanatoka vulnerable homes. So hiyo support iko, tumekuwa tukipeana kama serikali na tumeweza kusupport families ama households 1.3 million Kenyans.
Leo tumeanza hii mpango ya kusaidia wale waliathirika na hii mafuriko, na tutaenda kila mahali wananchi walikuwa na shida, kulingana na vile tutawezeshwa tutaenda.
Meanwhile, In a unified effort led by Correctional Services Principal Secretary Salome Bieko, Principal Secretary for the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs Aurelia Rono, Social Protection PS Joseph Mugusi, and Roads PS Joseph Mbugwa visited an IDP camp at Masinda Muniro grounds in Mathare, Nairobi.
Hakuna ambaye amegonjeka, muko na hali nzuri ya afya, na tunaombea pia muweze kuweka usafi ndio tusiwe na magonjwa ambayo hufuatilia maneno ya ukosefu wa usafi.
Tunataka kuwahimiza mkuwe strong, tutegemee Mungu, kila kitu itakuwa sawa. Tunawajali, tunawakumbuka na tunawaombea.
Tumeweka mikakati kuona vile tutawatengenezea affordable housing. Pia nyinyi mujiandikishe. Ndio kila mtu, na hii ni a very big priority ya His Excellency the President, kwa kila mtu awe anaishi kwa nyumba ambayo ni nzuri, awe anaishi kwa dignity.
Informal settlements have borne the brunt of the heavy rains and floods that have claimed the lives of 277 people since April.
Lands and Urban Development Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome says the government is committed to ensure that all stalled projects across the country are complete. Speaking in Murang'a, the Cabinet Secretary emphasized the importance of infrastructure development in driving economic growth and improving citizens' lives. Wahome, who was speaking in Murang'a while inspecting progress of construction of the Mudidi market in Kigumo, said the government is keen in ensuring value for money and those given contracts must do quality works.
The governor had visited my office like 4 months ago, and he was expressing concern for the delay that occurred. Of course, you know, transition and budget constraints sometimes take the project back, but we have now taken off. For that, projects are good projects for wealth creation, because of course with the vibrant business around, and we'll make sure this city, as the Honorable Governor has said, that he has marked it for elevation as a smart city.
Angry residents in Kisima area of Nyahururu have staged a demonstration to protest the death of a 17-year-old man. Locals claim Stephen Jiguna succumbed to injuries after he was allegedly assaulted by attendants of a shop in the town on suspicion of stealing clothes. The deceased father, James Muraya, is demanding speedy investigations on what led to his son's death. The protesters claimed there have been numerous cases of mistreatment and harassment of customers at the shop and no action has been taken.
Sasa kitu tunataka ni haki ya mtoto wetu. Kwa vile tuoni kwa nini kama wamempiga, kwa nini wamempiga. Hiyo ni kitu, kama alikuwa ameshikwa hiyo nguo, hiyo ni nguo tungeweza kulipa.
Na huyu si mtoto wa kwanza, wengine amewapiga, huyu sasa akaona hata sio kupiga atapiga, ni kuua ataua. Jamani, mimi nauliza, hii ni ugona? That's why we are saying that we need justice for Jogona.
Wameua mtoto wetu. Sisi kama watu wa biashara tunafanya kazi ya mtumba. Hatujawahi piga mtu juu ya kuimba, ama hatujawahi ua mtu juu ya kuimba. Tunasema ilipwe mara 10.
All right, Lawrence Kamau of the Confucius Institute at the University of Nairobi emerged the winner in the just concluded National Chinese Bridge Proficiency Competition. Kamau is set to represent Kenya in the international competition to be held in China.
The finals of the much-awaited 24th Chinese Proficiency Competition for foreign college and university students were held at the University of Nairobi. Participants representing various institutions showcased their language skills in front of a panel of judges consisting of Chinese language experts. Among the finalists was Lawrence Kamau, a 21-year-old student from the University of Nairobi's Confucius Institute. Kamau emerged as the champion.
I didn't do this by myself. I stand on the shoulders of giants, of mighty giants who have helped me mightily and monumentally. And those are my Chinese teachers.
One of the judges highlighted that Kenyan students have high Chinese proficiency standard unlike other countries.
I really don't know why. If you would compare with other nationalities, you realize that the Kenyans get a very strong tongue when it comes to speaking Chinese, but they also have a high understanding of the Chinese culture.
The Dean of Students at the University of Nairobi, Johnson Kinyua, said the competition at the same acted as a forum of job creation for the locals.
If they see that you have language proficiency, you are taken irrespective of the course you are doing, because they say language first, then talent the degree you have done second. So this will give them a great value as far as their career growth and progression from learning to earning is concerned.
Paulina Simil for Lunchtime News.
Stakeholders in the digital space have lauded the country's dedication to incorporating artificial intelligence AI in technology used for aiding people living with disabilities, PWDs. This, they say, will go a long way in not only making life easier, but help in approaching Africa's unemployment problem from a holistic perspective, particularly for persons living with disabilities. Speaking during the launch of the Center for AI SDG in Nairobi, UN High Advisory Board member on AI, Philip Tigo, noted that the United Nations is at the forefront in fostering inclusivity. He further lauded the steps being undertaken by local startups to alleviate inequality, especially among people with disabilities as well as the elderly.
Because the challenge also is that if we do not compete peace, because we are 93% in Kenya is one of the few countries right now that is developing an AI strategy in a very inclusive manner. It's not been done anywhere else. In a way that now we are trying to build the strategy from a multi-stakeholder approach and ecosystem.
It's not unique to persons with disabilities. If you think about the biggest challenges for artificial intelligence, it's adoption and implementation in Africa in particular. It's lack of relevant local data. It's the skills gap in terms of the people who can actually develop and deploy.
Developers, designers, and generally everybody to start thinking about persons with disabilities, not just as patients or users, but as customers.
Please, government, the EARCs, the EAC centers that you had before that were doing diagnosis for these children, and then you took away those assessors and now you have made them CSOs. That means in the mashinani, there is nobody who's doing any diagnosis.
About a teacher plus AI, a farmer plus AI, a doctor plus AI.
A section of residents in Mount Kenya region are suffering from the effects of prolonged rains in the country that have resulted in deaths and destruction of property in the country. Speaking after donating assorted food items to affected families at Kiandutu slums in Thika by the Kenya Red Cross in collaboration with members of Young Muslim Association, Esther Wamboi, the Red Cross representative in Mount Kenya region, says that despite the rains having subsided, over 22,000 households in the region have been severely affected by floods. Fatuma Abdi Ali from Young Muslim Association has urged Kenyans to give a helping hand to Kenyans affected by floods.
We are talking of over 22,000 households that have been affected by floods. Chakula ambacho tumepata kutoka kwa wafadhili ni kidogo tu, ambayo tunashukuru, lakini haja ambayo iko katika hawa watu ni haja zaidi. Na pia tuendelee kuomba kukiwa na mtu ambaye anaweza kuwa na kidogo unga, chakula, malazi, ni vizuri pia akiweza kuwasiliana na sisi katika Kenya Red Cross ili tukaweza kufikia hawa watu.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. We'll be back with more, including ones making headlines in the world of business as well as sports. Stay with us.
Unaonanga kama sisi watu watchman, we are not learned people, ndio? Watchman askari, yes, ama sorry.
Askari gani?
Askari kanga mheshimiwa.
Akanivisha ndoo ya maji. Akakuvisha wapi?
Kwa kichwa.
Ikiwa na maji.
Ikiwa na maji. Mheshimiwa, naomba hii ndoo kwa maji chafu tumweke kwa kichwa tuone kama itatosea. Bahati si ni kweli?
Sikatai, si ndio?
Ya, nyumba ya mabati. Kukiwa na jua, unaweza lala kwa hiyo nyumba.
Sasa wanajaribu wanalala ndani ya bishini. Wewe unatupotezea wakati. Unaweza maliza hiyo story yako.
I can go home.
Kwenda. Enda.
This week on What's in Your Kitchen, we have Chef Hilary who will be making for us potato wedges, stir-fried chicken, and a garden salad. That's optional. Let's say if someone doesn't have carrots.
Yeah, you can just do it as I've done.
So for our potatoes, tunazi shallow fry until crispy, ama what are we looking for?
Until crispy, yeah.
Okay. Because naona hiyo ni kama inataka kukataa kazi.
And this actually does it best.
Yeah. Chef Hilary, thank you so much for coming to the show. I hope you had fun.
Very much fun.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. Welcome back. Now, in this week's episode of the Cabinet, we bring you the story of the political journey of Geoffrey Mapukori Parai, a man whose journey started when he served as a public servant in the Olkajiado Town Council, rising to become a prominent national political figure and a government minister. Let's take a look.
Geoffrey Mapukori Parai attended DEB Loitoktok Primary School and then Olkajiado Secondary School before joining the Kenya Institute of Administration, later renamed Kenya School of Government. An accountant by training, Parai had in 1982 become clerk of the Town Council of Olkajiado, where he worked until 1992 when he entered competitive politics. Aged 35, Parai was working as a clerk to the Town Council of Olkajiado. If he was to have any chances of making it in Kajiado politics, Parai realized he needed to align himself with either of the two most powerful Maasai political figures in Kajiado. That included John Keane, who was in the Democratic Party of Kenya, headed by former Vice President Mwai Kibaki, or Professor George Saitoti, who was the Vice President, and in the Kenya African National Union KANU, headed by President Daniel Arap Moi. Parai contested the Kajiado South parliamentary seat in 1992 on a DP ticket, but lost to KANU's party candidate Philip Lampart Singaru, Despite Parai's losing, it was clear the newly formed Democratic Party had stamped its authority in the Maasai land, and so was its presidential candidate Mwai Kibaki. Parai had also emerged as a leader to watch in Kajiado politics and earned the respect of the main players in the party. During the 1997 campaigns, Parai organized major rallies for the Democratic Party in Kajiado, and he won the Kajiado South seat by polling 13,798 votes against Singaru's 10,232. However, prior to the elections, Parai had defected from DP to KANU, albeit for a short time, hoping to co-sign Singaru to political oblivion in the party primaries. And he almost succeeded being declared the winner in the KANU nominations by the returning officer after garnering 8,884 votes to Singaru's 8,659 and Oloitip 2,500. But these results were nullified following demonstrations and an ultimatum issued by Singaru, who threatened to defect to the opposition. KANU Secretary General Joseph Kemotho and Vice President Sai Toti convinced President Moi that supporting Singaru would save the party in Kajiado. So in the repeat nomination exercise, Parai's papers were rejected, with KANU arguing that he failed the language proficiency test. Parai defected back to DP, and after convincing the electorate that KANU had interfered with KANU nominations, he won the Kajiado South seat. Parai distinguished himself as a defender of Maasai rights both inside and outside the parliament. In parliament and as a member of DP, he was always pushing for the elevation of Loitoktok division to sub-district status. He would also help his close friends take up leadership positions in group ranches, which was necessary in the consolidation of power. In the run-up to the 2002 general election, Parai joined the National Rainbow Coalition, waved together with Professor Sai Toti and members of the Liberal Democratic Party, who had dissolved a merger with KANU to protest President Moi's choice of relative newcomer Uhuru Kenyatta as his successor. It was this group that joined Kibaki, Charity Ngilu and Kijana Wamalwa to form NAC, the outfit that toppled KANU. Shortly after, he was appointed Minister of State in charge of personnel management. His assistant minister was Maurice Dzoro, the MP for Kaloleni. But just months after swearing in, the minister was taken ill and rushed to a Nairobi hospital where he was diagnosed with cancer. His death in August 2003 understandably destabilized Kibaki's political strength in Kajiado. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Governor Fernandez Baraza has faulted National Assembly Budget Committee for rejecting Senators' proposal to increase counties' allocation funds for the financial year 2024-2025 to 415 billion shillings. Baraza, who chairs the Finance and Economic Planning Committee at the Council of Governors, noted that devolved units require more funds to implement projects. Baraza was speaking during an inspection tour of maize farms in various wards in Mumias East, Matungu and Huisero sub-counties to assess the impact of subsidized fertilizer.
Leo tumekuja kwa shughuli ya agriculture hapa. Wakulima wetu wanataka mbolea, madaktari wanataka pesa kulipwa, tuko na medical equipment services, tunahitaji pesa. So tungependa kuhimiza kamati ya budget ya kwamba you need to reconsider ile proposal ya Senate ya kuongezea counties pesa kutoka shilingi bilioni 385 hadi shilingi bilioni 415.9.
24 minutes past the hour. We are taking a breather. We'll be back in a bit. Stay with us.
Unaonanga kama sisi watu watchman, we are not learned people, ndio? Watchman, askari, yes, ama soja.
Askari gani?
Askari kanga mheshimiwa. Akanivisha ndoo ya maji.
Akakuvisha wapi?
Kwa kichwa.
Ikiwa na maji.
Ikiwa na maji. Mheshimiwa, naomba hii ndoo kwa maji chafu tumweke kwa kichwa tuone kama itatosea. Bati, si ni kweli?
Sikatai, si ndio?
Ya, nyumba mabati. Kukiwa na jua unaweza lala kwa hiyo nyumba.
Sasa wanajaribu wanalala ndani ya bikini.
Wewe unatupotezea wakati. Unaweza maliza hiyo story yako. Kwenda. Enda.
Watch the Mozartbet Cup as teams from both the top tier and low tier battle for the ultimate prize of representing the country in Africa's CAF Confederations Cup. Catch all the action live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, beginning with a round of 16 matches, the quarter-final, semi-final, and the final. Mozartbet Cup, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Mpenzi mtazamaji wa runinga unayoipenda ya KBC Channel 1.
Over the years, we have been at the forefront of broadcast trends to bring you the best of news, entertainment, and sports. You have the power to take your favorite broadcaster to the top. KBC Channel 1 has been nominated in the TV Station of the Year category in the 7th edition of the Kuza ICT Awards.
Favorite TV station.
To vote for KBC via SMS, simply use the short code 15601 and follow the prompts at no cost. Or visit www.kuzaawards.co.ke and follow the registration instructions to vote. KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Welcome back. Thank you for... Welcome back. Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. Time for business. The government will push for a review of existing policies in the energy sector to reduce the cost of gas cylinder and help combat clean cooking crisis. Speaking during the International Energy Agency Clean Cooking Africa Summit in Paris, Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir says the government will address the cost of LPG gas cylinders to ensure fair competition.
Years, Kenya has made major strides in transitioning from dirty fuels to clean fuels, with 53% of urban homes and 5.6% of rural households using liquefied petroleum gas, according to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Overall, 24% of Kenyans use clean fuel and technology for cooking, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Medical experts argue that the inhalation of hazardous smoke from cooking is the second leading cause of premature death among women and children in Africa. To address this, a government is seeking to develop policy and structure for clean and sustainable cooking solutions to eliminate the dependence on biomass as primary fuel sources.
The initial cost of entry is a big challenge, and what we're trying to do is to grow that space, and as government have policies which address how do we get those living below the poverty line to access and overcome this cost of entry, bring in enough competition.
Further, a bigger vessel will be brought in Mombasa, linking Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda.
We have a program today where we are trying to bring down the cost of clean cooking, particularly gas, bringing in big ship. We want to leverage on our geopositioning of Mombasa to bring in big vessels for Kenya, for Uganda, for Rwanda, and enjoy the volume of the scale of investment in bringing in a bigger ship.
Chirchir spoke during the International Energy Agency Clean Cooking Africa Summit, where Africa secured $2.2 billion to expand clean energy initiatives. Frederick Muki for Lunchtime News.
Now into interactive segment, and this afternoon we are going to talk about tiny black seeds, the chia seeds. And on set to discuss this is Original Chia founder Martin Toft to give us more insight about these seeds. What are these seeds, Martin? Welcome on set.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me here. Chia seeds is the most nutritious, most complete food in the world. That is why it was taken away from the South Americans 500 years by the Spanish. They wanted to control, and chia was too powerful. And 15 years ago, I started with chia, and I introduced it first in Europe. Then I was the first to grow here in Africa, and then also India. And the reason why we should eat chia and why I think that chia will eliminate hunger and malnutrition here in Kenya is because of the facts. It has more than 20% protein with all amino acids, so it's like meat protein. It has more than 30% fat, omega-3 fat, the good for the brain. It has more than 30% fibers for our stomach, intestines, and it has all the minerals that we need and in high doses. Doesn't taste like anything, doesn't smell like anything. You can add it to anything you eat or drink and just make the meal more nutritious and more fulfilling.
Is it safe for each and every group?
Yes. Only children below 2 years. Infants shouldn't get too much fiber, but that's general, that small babies, their stomach are not developed for a lot of fibers. But starting from 1-2 years, you can add a little bit chia in the porridge, in the milk, in the juice, in the ugali, in the chapati. Anything you eat here, you can add chia. And it's not very expensive because you don't need much.
Look, let's put aside the health benefits.
Yes.
How can the cultivation of these seeds move the economy of this country?
Because chia is very, very cheap to grow. The seeds, you don't need to buy special seeds. You can go to any supermarket, buy the seeds, and then you can seed them. You don't need any fertilizer. The roots of the plant is called Salvia hispanica, so it's a salvi. Salvi means healing, or the healing. The roots go 5-6 meters down and finds water and nutrition where other plants cannot grow. So you basically take the seeds, you spread them, sit down, wait for 3-4 months, and then you harvest. You can also eat the plant, or you can use the plant material for feeding animals, or it can be converted into energy. It can be converted into biogas.
Do we export these products?
Sorry?
Do we export this product?
Yes, you do, a little bit. But you also import from India and from Uganda because there's not enough chia on the Kenyan market. So farmers who have been affected by the flooding, who have lost their crops, maybe lend a lot of money to buy the seeds and fertilizer. This is an alternative for them so that they can get a harvest in 3-4 months. And only investing $1-2 to buy the seeds, seed them, and then learn how to grow chia. It's easy because chia grows like weeds. Doesn't have any natural enemies. So it's easy to grow. But it's also easy to ride a bike. But you can be good at it, or you can just ride a bike. So of course you can be You can just grow chia, or you can be good at it. But that's by learning, by experience.
What is your take on cultivation of these seeds and the impacts of climate change right now that is being faced by the world?
Oh, this is helping us because the roots, the CO2 that is in the roots, stay in the ground. So this is green energy, not only for humans, but also for animals and machines. So this has just, the faster we want to get rid of fossil fuel, the sooner we eliminate hunger and malnutrition. Because the oil in chia, you can press the oil out, and then you can take the oil and put in a diesel car or in a generator. So it creates green energy, and the leftover, which in my opinion is the most important part, is the protein and the fibers and the minerals for humans.
What percentage do you say it has done on job creation in the country?
I don't know the exact numbers. I know from Busia, where I started 8 years ago, the first farmers in Kenya who grew chia was from Busia. 78 was brave enough to trust me in what I was saying, and they all succeeded. So now there are thousands of farmers all over Kenya, and it is the small farmers who benefit most out of this. And in any culture in the world, you need to build countries from below and up. So it is empowering the small farmers. Not only they can make good money by growing chia, but they can also eat chia themselves and get a better health, not get so sick so much. So chia is a win-win for everybody except the fossil fuel business and those with other interests. But for people, chia is a blessing.
Martin, for the period that you've been in the country, you've been able to practice farming, and agriculture in Kenya contributes a huge % when it comes to the revenue of the country.
Yes.
What are the challenges that you've seen in the agricultural sector, and what direction do you think the country should take?
You need to go in bigger scale farming. The government has more than 1 million acres of land that is not being used, and you need to attract maybe people from outside, maybe people from inside. That's not so important, but you need to go into more big scale farming, because that is where you can really make volume. Small scale farming, I love it. I love the farmers in Busia. They are very nice people, and I think this is a good way for them to make money, selling on local market, but in order to make it really an impact on the economy of the nation, you need bigger scale farming.
The world today, everyone would want to be associated with the digital space. From where you sit, what is your take in regards to artificial intelligence and agriculture?
I think that artificial intelligence will help us, because we have so much knowledge, but it is knowledge that is often kept within the farmers. AI can help us learn more about growing, because it's a learning process. The yield that we get today is so much different from what we got 100 years ago. We get 10, 20 times more yield today on any crop because knowledge. Humans, it's our knowledge, our creativity. When we gather new resource, then our knowledge, our experience, our creativity has made this resource into something big that has changed the world. We know that from history. I know that from Europe, the potato.
From the time you've been in the country, 8 years is quite some good time. You've been able to interact with the youth, and the government is really pushing on the employment of the youth in the country.
Yes.
Do you see potential for the youth in the agricultural space?
Oh, yes. Because agriculture is still labor work. It is still required to have quite a bit labor work. And taking the next steps with chia, also using the plant material to make biogas, that will, of course, require people to work in those factories. And I imagine that we can have this in different places in every county here in Kenya, so that one biogas factory together with chia farming can create jobs, can create green energy, can create protein for the people, can eliminate. The more we want green energy, the sooner we will eliminate hunger and malnutrition. You eat 10 to 15 grams, two spoons a day. I guarantee you, your stomach will tell you how good it is for you. And it will cost you like 10, 15 shilling, that's all. And you put it in water, in milk, in juice, in anything. It's kind of, it sounds too good to be truth. But I've been working with chia. Chia has been my life for the last 15 years. 28th of January 2009, 11 o'clock in the morning, I know I have to spend the rest of my life with chia. I'm so privileged in my life and blessed that I have been given the job to bring back a new crop, a new food. That's never happened before. So all I want with chia is to help farmers and to help especially Africa eliminate hunger and malnutrition. Because we need a change, we need a game changer. Chia is a game changer.
I believe quite a certain percentage of people are the ones who consume chia. Do you think it's the right time to look at it as a tourism product in the country?
It is the right, we need in the whole world, we need a game changer. Things are going in the wrong direction, in my opinion. People in power in this world, they are misusing their power. And we need, nobody believes that we can replace fossil energy. We need a game changer. And that is what chia is and is going to be. Chia will change the world.
Very interesting, Martin. Looking forward to have you more on this platform. Thank you for your time.
Anytime.
That is Martin Loft telling us more about the chia seeds. She is the founder of Original Chia. Thank you. Looking forward to have you once again. In more news, this afternoon, Communication Authority of Kenya is set to construct a data center and an ICT hub entrepreneurship center within the next 4 years, while launching the CAS 2023-2027 strategic plan that is advocating for promotion of meaningful connectivity to ICT services and increasing broadband penetration, information communications and the digital economy. Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo underscored the need for digital access to all Kenyans.
Is that you exist to meet the expectations of your diverse stakeholder segments. The ministry is an integral stakeholders. You need to augment our efforts in realizing our mandate. The telecommunication companies, you need to create an enabling environment for them to effectively deliver on their goals and objectives. At macro level, you have no option, you must support delivery of the overall government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda.
But also probably it's a challenge to say that as we talk about emerging technologies, there's a sense in which we must accommodate the African values and systems so that we ask AI to accommodate that. And I think in doing so, we shall get answers that are of African nature. So it's our duty to Africanize these technologies and make sure they accommodate our specific needs.
From increasing broadband penetration, adoption of emerging technologies, improvement of cybersecurity, expansion of postal and courier services, and the digital empowerment of women, the youth, and people living with disabilities. The 17 goals are backed by a robust implementation plan and regulated by a stringent monitoring and evaluation framework.
The government has started the process of overhauling Kenya's building regulations to deepen green building practices in the construction industry. The country is planning to cut green gas emission from the construction industry by 50% in the next 6 years. Housing and Urban Development Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome says in light of recent climate-induced flooding, the government will expedite the National Building Standards and the Control Bill 2024 and new building codes as part of climate mitigation efforts in the construction industry.
Have national housing policy, and then after, at the same time, we are also discussing and we are looking at the building national building standards and control bill that is already on my desk, but we need then to look at it, all of us as a sector, to see whether it will have the necessary components. I have told you the building code is done.
So the building sector is a huge emitting sector, even in France. In France, it's the fourth sector in terms of CO2 emissions. So we are trying to mitigate this by renovating our buildings.
So there's going to be an opportunity in terms of how you use your energy, you know, the green building codes, standards and labeling for equipment, appliances, and also to work with the finance sectors.
Kenya plans to publish new regulations prohibiting the shipping of bulk tea in a bid to create an authentic Kenyan tea brand. This is expected to hit major tea multinationals like Lipton and Unilever that have dominated the Kenyan tea export market for decades. Currently, Kenya exports 95% of its tea in bulk to the United Kingdom for blending. President William Ruto says the country has held discussions with various tea multinationals to help in establishing a distinct Kenyan tea brand.
Tea production surpassed $17 billion, with trade in the community hitting $10 billion, according to data from the Food and Agriculture Authority. Kenya is a major player in the industry, holding the title as the world's largest producer and exporter of black tea. Despite being a major producer of tea, Kenya exports close to 95% of its produce, with the United Kingdom importing the bulk of Kenyan tea for blending. President William Ruto now says the government will develop new regulations that will prohibit the export of Kenyan tea in bulk to help in value addition.
We are going to develop a Kenyan brand together. The same way Sri Lanka have Ceylon tea. We have also agreed to set up an academy in Kenya where we are going to have this conversation about tea. How do we grow the tea?
Addressing the management of the Kenya Tea Development Authority, President Ruto said the government has already partnered with various multinationals to help in developing and driving the Kenyan tea brand.
We must develop common user facilities. I heard the chairman say this. We need to expand common user facilities so that we begin the branding of our tea. We begin the packaging of our tea. We cannot continue to export our tea in sacks.
Ruto has also directed the KTDA management to reduce management fees for farmers from the current 2.5% to 1.5% to ensure the KTDA sets up common user facilities where farmers can value add tea for export. The directors have raised concerns on payment from power sold to the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, as most tea factories have invested in hydropower stations.
Thank you for keeping it KBC Channel 1 in sports. The second edition of the Kenya Football Federation Women Physiotherapist Workshop entered day 2 Wednesday at Mathare Youth Sports Association offices in Komarok, Nairobi County. The 4-day workshop has brought together FKF Women's Premier League and National Super League participants and is part of a program led by FIFA to enhance the welfare and performance of female footballers.
Skills and knowledge in sports medicine among participants from both the FKF Women's Premier League and National Super League.
More attention has been on the male, but now we are happy the focus is shifting to women also trying to bring us up on board.
The workshop intends to build on the knowledge gained in the previous program, where participants familiarize themselves with common sports injuries and interventions, as well as nutritional and psychological training for athletes. The 4-day workshop will end on Friday this week. For Lunchtime News, I'm Emmanuel Ndungu.
Defending champions Manchester City are 1 game away from winning a historic 4th English Premier League title after a hard-fought 2-0 win over host Tottenham Hotspur at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Erling Haaland scored a brace in the second half, ending Spurs' hope of a top 4 finish and opening a get-to